Hit our record over here. There's my approval for. Let me hit this record over here and we'll be ready to go. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul. Let me check this one. Make sure it's connected. Yes, it is. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to continue our study with paper 129 in the life of Christ, or life of Jesus, and we're in section 4 in paper 129, the human Jesus, and that's on page 1424 of the original book, or paper 129.41 of all the rest of them. So this is where I used to say, let's say a little prayer, but I won't do that anymore. You want to pray? You want to read for us there? You want me to read? Yeah.
4. The human Jesus. To the onlooking celestial intelligences of the local universe, the Mediterranean trip was the most enthralling of all Jesus's earth experiences, at least of all his career right up to the event of his crucifixion and mortal death. This was a fascinating period of his personal ministry in contrast with the soon following epic of public ministry. This unique episode was all the more engrossing because he was at this time still the carpenter of Nazareth, the boat builder of Capernaum, the scribe of Damascus. He was still the Son of Man. He had not yet achieved the complete mastery of his human mind. The adjuster had not fully mastered and counterparted the mortal identity. He was still a man among men.
You're muted.
There we go. Is that better? You missed the most important thing I'll say all night. So anyway, this is the period of time that Jesus was known by all these different titles, and before his public ministry. And so this, up to this time, he was kind of incognito. So he enjoyed himself during this period of a couple of years. And then when he started his ministry, everything changed. So this gives us an idea of all the different titles that Jesus went by. We talked about this last time a little bit. Okay. Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. The purely human religious experience, the personal spiritual growth of the Son of Man will now reach the apex of attainment during this, the 29th year. This experience of spiritual development was a consistently gradual growth from the moment of the arrival of his thought adjuster until the day of the completion and confirmation of that natural and normal human relationship between the material mind of man and the mind endowment of the spirit. The phenomena of making of these two minds one. The experience which the Son of Man attained in completion and finality as an incarnated mortal of the realm on the day of his baptism in the Jordan.
Okay, last time when we were talking about this, we didn't talk about this two-mind thing too much, but I wanted to bring up that not only did Jesus gain the experience during this period of time, but we got to remember that the thought adjuster, who was later separated at baptism, right, not only gained all this experience from Jesus's daily life, but he retains all that Jesus learned and experienced and dealt with during his life. The thought adjuster retained that after Jesus and him separated. So in essence, the thought adjuster, if you think about it, became a I don't want to say carbon copy, but the experience a carbon copy of everything that Jesus did. This is the personalized adjuster, and that's why this personalized adjuster we consider just like Jesus, right? Because that adjuster not only gained the experience, but all the thoughts, feelings, everything. In other words, the thought adjuster, when it was all said and done, was just exactly like the human Jesus and the pre Jesus before he got back to Michael again. You see what I'm saying? So, because of this experience, this adjuster is the perfect being to lead the finalators on this planet because it's like a continuation of Jesus himself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Rodney's looking confused.
Well, a little bit. Say it again. A different way.
A different way. Okay. Okay. Jesus gained, or the thought adjuster gained all the human experience that Jesus had from birth all the way up to his baptism. Okay.
Right.
Everything that Jesus experienced, his loves, his dissatisfactions, all of his experiences, all his emotions, everything that Jesus gained from being a human being, in other words, everything from the seventh bestowal, the thought adjuster gained and experienced just exactly like Jesus. So, in essence, if you would, the thought adjuster almost became an exact carbon copy of Jesus the man.
Correct.
Okay? That is why the thought adjuster, the personalized thought adjuster, now remember, the thought adjuster stayed with Jesus throughout the rest of his life, even his Morancha experience. So he gained the experience, but it wasn't inside Jesus like it was before because he had already separated. You see what I'm saying? The difference? So during his ministry, he was with him all the time, but he couldn't gain the experience of adding to the mindset of Jesus that he did, Jesus the soul, that he did when he was with him. Okay? So you have to think of it this way. The soul that Jesus was building up all the time during his life became the property of whom? It wasn't Jesus. It was the thought adjuster.
Thought adjuster.
Right?
The personalized thought adjuster.
The personalized thought adjuster. So that soul of Jesus became a personal, fused part of that thought adjuster. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so if you think about it, the thought adjuster becoming personalized was the fusion of the adjuster with Jesus the man.
His mind.
His mind, right? Even though they were separated, and he still gained experience from being with him all the way up through his Morancha incarnations. Okay? So he stayed with him all the way through it. So he still gained that experience also. So you can see why this carbon copy, if you will, of the man of Jesus is a perfect being to lead the finalators when it'll eventually be leading us when we become finalators into the future. Okay?
Oh, like this is stating, let's see, the phenomena of making these two minds
one.
So, which two minds?
The mind of Jesus and the mind of God.
Okay. So the thought adjuster, it's saying the thought adjuster has a mind.
It has
the mind of God.
It has a mind, but not a personality.
Correct.
Right?
So
the carbon copy of Jesus's personality goes to whom? The thought adjuster.
So once the mind of the thought adjuster and Jesus's mind are made one.
Right.
Well, Jesus still has a mind.
Yes, but it's his Michael it's his pre bestowal mind.
His Michael personality.
His Michael personality. He already had
Mind.
personality as Michael. Okay?
So
he didn't need another personality after he left here, did he?
So you're saying the personality, Michael's personality, and Michael's mind.
Right.
Because Michael would have a mind.
Yeah, and he was a creator son, so he already had mind and he already had personality, didn't he?
And Jesus, a human, had mind.
And Jesus says,
and then the thought adjuster has mind. So there's 3 minds.
Well, not really, because you have Jesus's human personality and you have Jesus's pre-human personality.
Michael's.
So his personality as the human goes to whom?
Thought adjuster.
The thought adjuster, right? And he retains his personality as Michael, but he gains the experiential experience of the man, the son, Jesus, the Son of Man. Okay? So when he dies and he's resurrected himself, he not only still has the Michael personality, but he has all the experiential experience of the Son of Man. So he becomes the Son of Man and the Son of God combination.
Correct.
Right? Where the thought adjuster just becomes personalized. And where's the personality for that personalization come from? Jesus the man.
Correct.
Makes sense? You still look confused, Rodney.
Still a little bit confused, but
just have to let it process a little bit, because all these parts really that are separate come together. And this all happens partially at the baptism, right?
Correct.
And it finishes happening after Jesus returns to the Father after death of his human self.
Well, Jesus doesn't return, but Michael does.
Michael does. That's right.
Right.
Okay. All this makes sense. I wanted to go over that because we didn't have enough time last time at the end to do that. All right. So, Lech, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. Throughout these years, while he did not appear to engage in so many seasons of formal communion with his Father in heaven, he perfected increasingly effective methods of personal communication with the indwelling spirit presence of the Paradise Father. He lived a real life, a full life, and a truly normal, natural, and average life in the flesh. He knows from personal experience the equivalent of the actuality of the entire sum and substance of the living of the life of human beings on the material worlds of time and space.
And that's exactly what his mission was, wasn't it? In the seventh bestowal. So he fulfilled his mission fully by his baptism. That's what they were trying to tell us. All right. Let's see here.
Is that why God said, I'm fully, basically, he said, I'm well pleased. Basically, he's saying you can come home now.
No, he said that because the reason God says that is because at that point, when you fuse with your adjuster, you leave the reality of being only human, and you gain the reality. This is going to drive us crazy here. And you gain the reality of becoming a child of God. So that's why God says, this is my beloved son or daughter in whom I'm well pleased, because at the time of fusion, you actually become immortal and become a child of God and the universe. That makes sense? That's why he said that. You're a new being. That's why they give you a new name, right? When you fuse with your adjuster, you get a new name. Now, did they give Jesus a new name? No, because he was already whom?
The Creator Father
He
gave
was
it.
he was Michael, our creator father. That's right.
Michael.
All right. Did we read this, dear? Or did I already?
I
No.
don't think so.
Okay. Well, let's go on and read. Gary, when you want to read this one?
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do my penance for being late.
Okay.
Hold on, I can get my screen adjusted so I can.
Okay.
Okay. The Son of Man experienced those wide ranges of human emotions which reach from superb joy to profound sorrow. He was a joy and a being of rare good humor. Likewise was he a man of sorrow and acquainted with grief. In a spiritual sense, he did live through the mortal life from the bottom to the top, from the beginning to the end. From a material point of view, he might appear to have escaped living through both social extremes of human existence, but intellectually, he became wholly familiar with the entire and complete experience of mankind.
Okay. So, what this paragraph is telling us is that Jesus experienced the same human emotions that we do in everyday life, right? The exact same emotions, just like we do, from the joy to the sorrow, from being a child to being an adult, from laughing and being of good humor to getting depressed. And that's why it says, man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, because he went through all the griefful experiences in life and the sorrow of losing one of his brothers or sisters and one of his young siblings and his father. So he experienced sorrow through that. All right. So he lived life from the beginning all the way to the end. And from the material point of view, uh, people think that he's escaped living through both social extremes of human experience, but he experienced them all and became intellectually familiar with the entire and complete experience of being a human on this planet. Right?
Roger,
Yeah,
does that include experiencing animalistic anger?
sure. I'm sure that's the case, Rodney. Even though he was very controlled, I'm sure he had times when he wanted to lash out on at people too, but he restrained himself from doing that. And that's part of growing up and learning to be a man, right? That's what we all have to experience. I don't know about y'all, but I've been so mad sometimes, I could throw the world upside down. It's just part of living. But he had learned to control that anger to the point where it was his second nature not to react to it. Okay. All right. I think I'm next. Am I not? Sure.
You must have
Jesus.
been late too, huh?
Yeah, I was late too. Jesus knows about the thoughts and the feelings and urges and impulses of the evolutionary and ascending mortals of the realm from birth to death. He has lived the human life from the beginnings of physical, intellectual, and spiritual selfhood up through the infancy, childhood, youth, and adulthood, even to the human experience of death. He not only passed through these unusual, familiar human periods of intellectual and spiritual advancement, but he also fully experienced those higher and more advanced phases of human and adjuster reconciliation, which so few Urantia mortals ever attain. And thus he experienced the full life of mortal man, not only as it is lived on your world, but also it is lived in other evolutionary worlds of time and space, even on the highest and most advanced of all worlds settled in light and life. So he had all the experiences that all types of being had throughout his entire universe, all the way up to those who are advanced in light and life. That's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Can you ask you a question?
Sure. That's what I'm here for.
I wonder if he experienced sex.
I doubt it.
You know, because it's a part of a human existence.
It
And
is.
he was here to experience everything.
Yes, but
It
let
was
me
just
tell
a
you.
passing thought.
Yeah, I know, Gary, but let me tell you why I think that's the case. He is the creator of our local universe, and all those things in which goes into sex and love and all the other things involved with it, he actually created with the local universe mother spirit. So in order for him to create those things, he already understood them. You see what I'm saying?
I understand your logic, and I'm not sure I agree or disagree. I really don't know.
It says nothing in the book about Jesus having any physical relationships with any men, women, or anything. So that's why I go from that. Not a word. And you'd think if it was important, they would have mentioned it, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's at least the way I see it. Okay, Diane, you're up again, dear.
You need to change it.
Ready? Although this perfect life which he lived in the likeness of mortal flesh may not have received the unqualified and universal approval of his fellow mortals, those who chanced to be his contemporaries on earth, still the life which Jesus of Nazareth lived in the flesh and on Urantia did receive full and unqualified acceptance by the universal Father, as constituting at one and the same time, and in one and the same personality life, the fullness of the revelation of the eternal God to mortal man, and the presentation of perfected human personality to the satisfaction of the infinite Creator.
So basically, what they're telling us is that everything that Jesus did throughout this incarnation was in the total approval of the universal Father. So he was content that everything he did fulfilled his obligation in the bestowal. And that's the most
Roger,
important thing.
I've thought about this deeply before. And the Son and the Spirit have gone out into their section of space to create worlds. And the whole purpose of creating is so that eventually humankind exists in their universe.
Right.
Mankind. So, after eons of time, finally the Creator has become the man that he has created, and it's a way for him to show his Father the very best, the human, the perfect human, what a human in his universe can become.
Can achieve.
And it satisfied
Yeah.
the Father.
Right. Yeah, it shows that even human beings can live perfect lives, right?
Correct.
All right. And that's our goal, right? All right.
Yeah, and he was told in advance not to get married, so there was no sexual awareness, because it would have been inappropriate.
Yeah, it would have been inappropriate for what he was doing. Rodney, would you take the next one? Wait a minute. Okay, go ahead.
I wasn't late.
Look at it this way: there's only 2 more paragraphs, so you're it. You want me to kick us over to Gary?
I'll take care of it.
He's gonna fall on the sword, Gary, just for you. All right.
Okay, and this was his true and supreme purpose. He did not come down to live on Urantia as the perfect and detailed example for any child or adult, any man or woman, and that age or any other age. True it is, indeed, that in his full, rich, beautiful, and noble life, we may all find much that is exquisitely exemplary, divinely inspiring. But this is because he lived a true and genuinely human life. Jesus did not live his life on earth in order to set an example for all other human beings to copy. He lived this life in the flesh by the same mercy ministry that you all may live your lives on earth. And as he lived his mortal life in his day, and as he was, so did he thereby set the example for all of us, thus to live our lives in our day and as we are. You may not aspire to live his life, but you can resolve to live your lives even as, and by the same means that he lived his. Jesus may not be the technical and detailed example for all the mortals of all ages on all the realms of this local universe, but he is everlastingly the inspiration and guide for all paradise pilgrims from the worlds of initial ascension up through a universe of universes and on through Nirvana to paradise. Jesus is the new and living way from man to God, from the partial to the perfect, from the earthly to the heavenly, from time to eternity.
So this example of a life will work all the way up to paradise, right? That's why they say in the book in a couple places that every profession is holy. Every single thing you do in life can be holy, because every experience you have and every type of work you do, you can live an exemplary life of as close to perfection as possible for human beings, right? And this same goal is our same goal all the way up through our Marantia form, through our spiritual form, through our absolute forms, to our absolute form as finaliter. So it's the same life, doesn't change. Okay, so learn it here, and you won't have to learn anything new when you go on to the next step, right? To dimension worlds. All right, you're our last reader tonight, so read it well.
Okay. By the end of the 29th year, Jesus of Nazareth had virtually finished the living of the life required of mortals as sojourners in the flesh. He came on earth, the fullness of God, to be manifest to man. He had now become well nigh the perfection of man, awaiting the occasion to become manifest to God. And he did all of this before he was 30 years of age.
So he accomplished everything he set out to do before the age 30, right? And everything after that was a gift to mankind and the universe. That's the way to look at it.
Well, there's something here that I think speaks extremely well of him. At this point, he was free to go home.
Yeah.
Well, I was looking at that.
Well,
He had become
Gary,
the
he
perfect man.
was already home.
Well, I meant leave this
I
world to
know
go
what you
on,
meant. Yeah, I know what you meant.
give me a hard time, see?
Yeah.
But my point is, do you realize what he went through in the last 2, 3 years of his life just to experience our life better so he could be a better manager? That's pretty, if you look at it from his point of view, that's kind of trivial.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That is, that's a hell of a sacrifice for a little bit more knowledge, especially through the crucifixion.
Mhm. Yeah.
If you can't think of any more love from an individual or his people, I mean, that goes beyond the sacrifice for yourself for sin. That
Yeah.
is just, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah,
it's phenomenal to me.
that makes this whole sacrifice for sin concept kind of moot, doesn't it? A
Yeah.
moot
It
point.
makes it petty.
Yeah, it makes it
Petty.
ridiculous. Really.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once in a while, I come up with something good.
That's right. That's why we love you, right? we allow you to come in late too. So
That's why you tolerate me, right?
That's right. All right, so that's it for tonight. Let's do our prayer here real quick. All right, you want to do the prayer of acceptance tonight, dear? Let me mute first.
Prayer of acceptance. I believe that God is my paradise Father, and that only by faith am I saved. No sacrifice is necessary. By this same faith, I became a child of God, and know that all men and women are my brothers and sisters. We know the Son of God, the sovereign of our universe of Nebadon, as Christ Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. By allowing the will of God to become my will, I will someday stand in the presence of the Paradise Father. In the name of Christ Jesus. In the name of Christ Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
Oh, man.
Amen.
And okay, thank you all at home for joining us. Please come see us again. Love to see those people out there seeing the meetings and going out to the website, and our viewership is increasing exponentially lately, and it makes me happy that more people are finding the Urantia book every day. It just is a wonderful thing, and that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. So
It's life change.
yeah, I'm so excited about next time, because next time we're going to start on the tour to
Yeah. Wrong.
Rome, right?
Yeah,
Right.
it's good.
Good
Is this
paper.
when he goes out with Ghana?
And then,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what.
I like that part.
Yeah, it's got a lot of good stuff in this paper. I'm going to take my time. It might take several times to get through everything, but there's just so much good information in
Yes,
it.
there is.
Anyway, look at it. So we'll take our time going through it. How many times it takes us to get through it, that'll be that. So, okay, y'all. Love you guys.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
We will see you
night.
next time.
Thank you, Diane.
Tuesday.
Bye.
Don't forget Sunday if you can make it. All right.
Sunday at 3.
Yeah, Sunday at 3. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.